Adesina Koiki here at Madison Square Garden for Big East Men's and Women's Basketball Media Days, and I am now joined by the head coach of the Creighton Blue Jays, Greg McDermott. First of all, Coach, thank you so very much for joining us. Third time, all right, that we're here together. That time flies when you're having fun, and here in New York, right?
It means we're both still employed. That's a good thing. It's great to see you again.
You've been in Creighton for a number of years, 7 years now?
This is my sixth.
Sixth year. After your time in Northern Iowa and after your time at Iowa State, just being in Omaha, Nebraska now for more than a half a decade, how have you embraced Omaha, just being a resident of Omaha, Nebraska? How have you loved the city of Omaha, let alone Creighton University?
Well, I've really enjoyed it. You know, I spent 6 years as the head coach at Wayne State College in Nebraska earlier in my coaching career, so it's almost 12 years that I've spent in the state of Nebraska, and just wonderful people. And Omaha is a basketball town, and to play in the CenturyLink and to experience the crowds that we have there, some of the best in the country, it's been incredible for me. And it's we still have a daughter in high school, so being able to raise her in a nurturing environment that we have in Omaha has been a wonderful thing.
Does your daughter play basketball?
She's basketball, volleyball, both. So she's a pretty busy girl.
So I'm sure she has looked up to her brother, Doug McDermott, being in the NBA with Chicago as well. Being that you have this basketball sports family, and then you have to balance it with being a head coach and traveling around, how do you achieve that balance with being the father at home and having kids in high school and in the NBA with being a head coach in college?
Well, you know, it can be tricky, and the unfortunate part of being in college basketball as a coach is you miss some of your children's events. I miss my oldest son, Nick, and Doug, of course, in high school. I probably got to 50% of what they did. You'd like to think that on the positive end of that, they get to experience some things that normal kids don't get to experience. Come to Madison Square Garden for the Big East tournament, or take a trip to Hawaii with the team, or my daughter was in Italy with us this summer. So I'd like to think there's a balance, but it's a busy time right now with our team, with my daughter's activities, and then certainly trying to keep one eye open to what's going on with Doug's career, because obviously I'm very proud of him as well.
Last season wasn't the season that you would have liked to have, although you did have a win in the Big East tournament. James Milliken was a player that really came on later on in the season. I believe he led the team in scoring about 3 of the last 6 games, along with Austin Chapman as well. What are you expecting from James going into his senior season after his first year getting acclimated to Creighton University?
Well, I'm hoping for consistency, and James gave us more of that late in the year last year, and we're going to need that from him. He and Jeff Grozell are now fifth-year players, so they have to provide some leadership on a daily basis. And we were close last year. We had 7 Big East games that we led in the last minute and lost. And I think the guys have understood the value of one possession and how that can change the outcome of the game. And it doesn't necessarily matter where that possession happened. A lot of times people look at the last possession of the game, but there are many that can turn the outcome. So, I like our team. I like their approach to this point, and at least at this point in time, our leadership's been really good.
You mentioned the close losses and the leads that you had late in those games. Those type of statistics, almost like turnover margin football, it's cyclical. One year you may have a great turnover margin, and the next year it may not be so good, and vice versa. Are you almost thinking in the sense that those losses that we had last year when we were so close might turn into more victories, that it can't be like that again from last season?
I hope you're right. I hope that's the case. But, my job as a coach is to figure out, number one, what did we do to put ourselves in a position to win the game? And we have to continue to build upon that. And then number two, why did we lose? And what can we do to fix that? And how can we create those situations in practice so the guys feel more comfortable when they're in that situation again this season? Because sometimes, human nature is when things go bad so many times in a row, when you're in that situation again, you get a feeling of, okay, here we go again. And that's the last thing you want to have happen. So through preparation, hopefully we can flip that around to our advantage.
So it's mostly preparation. I was about to ask, what are those solutions, or do you think you've even come up with things that you've had to do with your players to make sure that in those situations the results are different late in games?
It's preparation, it's repetition, and then it takes a little luck as well. Sterling Gibbs hits a 3 on the buzzer. Matt Carlino hits one with 7 seconds left, both pretty closely guarded. And that happens once in a while. And but we're going to do whatever we can to prepare our team for every situation, so when that time comes up in a game, which isn't very far away now, that we're ready for it.
You mentioned Jeff Grosel, and he's going to have an expanded role, or we would believe that he would have more of an expanded role this season, being that he is a center and a big man. Have you been even more intimate with your coaching with him, being that you're someone that has played in the post and he's playing in the post as well? And what does he need to do to improve this season?
Well, leadership is the most important thing Jeff's going to bring to us, because he's been there and he's done it. And my experience has been, young people come to college and freshmen want to play, and then sophomores and juniors, they want to start, and seniors want to win. They've been through all that, they've done all that. Now I want to go out a winner. I want to be one of the leaders on a team that does something special, and I've really seen that drive from Jeff. And his leadership throughout our 10 practices in preparation for the trip to Italy was outstanding. Knock on wood, he's stayed relatively healthy to this point in time, so we've been able to keep him on the practice floor. But we're going to throw the ball into him, and he's going to have to make some things happen, and I'm confident that he can do that.
You mentioned freshmen want to play, and sophomores and juniors want to start, and seniors want to win. Where do transfers fit in? You have a couple of transfers this season with Cole and Maurice Watson as well. How have they acclimated to the Creighton roster and team?
Well, they've been great, and the trip to Italy obviously was terrific for them to be able to get those extra practices and be part of the rotation in those games in Italy. And they were both accomplished players where they were before. Maurice at Boston U and Cole at Nevada, and they put up some great statistics, and they took advantage of the year that they were off. And that they've improved. They've added things to their game. They've developed their body. And I'm expecting big things from both of us.
What did you learn most about your team during that trip to Italy?
Well, it's a great chemistry building experience to be out of the country. Cell phones don't function like they normally do. Guys have to actually talk to one another instead of text each other.
Really?
Yeah, which is it's unbelievable, actually.
It's a phenomenon, right?
To see it happens incredible. But we've got some pieces there. We have some depth, and I think we can put some different lineups on the floor. We can play small. We can put a pretty big and long lineup on the floor and play some different ways. Where last year we were kind of locked into playing a certain way, given the dynamics of our roster, and I think that's changed some this year.
Did you have time to really experience Italy? Some of the best parts about being in Italy that didn't pertain to basketball, being on the basketball court?
I didn't get cheated at the restaurants, for sure. That there's some great places to eat in Italy, and obviously we visited some incredible places, the Vatican and the stadium. It was incredible. So I think it's a trip that, while our guys appreciate it now, I think 20 years from now, as they're with their families and something comes on television or they read something in a magazine, they can point out to their family, I've visited that place, and let me tell you about it. And I think it'll hold more value even as they get older.
Molto bene. Greg McDermott, thank you so very much for joining us, and best of luck and success to the Blue Jays in 2015-2016.
Thank you very much.